In his first campaign event since the police ambush in Dallas, the presumptive Republican presidential nominee, Donald Trump, went after those who've been critical of law enforcement. He also renewed his attacks on Hillary Clinton for her use of a private email server.
We must remember the police are needed the most where crime is the highest. Politicians and activists who seek to remove police or policing from a community are hurting the poorest and most vulnerable Americans. I am the law and order candidate. Hillary Clinton, on the other hand, is weak, ineffective, pandering, and, as proven by her recent email scandal, which was an embarrassment not only to her, but to the entire nation as a whole, she's either a liar or grossly incompetent. If elected, Hillary Clinton would become the first president of the United States who wouldn't be able to pass a background check. She would not be able.
Caitlin Huey-Burns is a national political reporter with Real Clear Politics, and she joins me now. So, Caitlin, this was interesting. This was our first time hearing from Donald Trump since the Dallas shootings. What did you make of his remarks?
Well, he was very much on message, and it was clear that Trump and his campaign and Republicans at large really want to focus their case on Hillary Clinton. Remember, last week we saw the FBI recommendations, then the Department of Justice said it would accept those recommendations, and a lot of Republicans trying to figure out how to continue to make this case against Clinton. And so by those standards, it was an effective speech. That law and order candidate, you heard Chris Christie, who introduced Donald Trump, obviously a former prosecutor. He was also making that case for law and order. So that's something that, Trump has very high negatives, Clinton does too, but her real vulnerabilities remain the trustworthiness and honesty as her vulnerabilities, and this is trying to tap into that.
Yeah, it was interesting. I thought that, in fact, we did hear from him before Monday, and that was, though, in a taped message. So there was some measure of discipline there.
Right. That's something we really haven't seen before. Trump has made, Instagram videos, and a lot of times they've been perceived as, not the right time for the right moment. And so this was certainly something new we've been seeing from the campaign. These kind of more scripted, disciplined, planned, and programmed messages. And this was an example, and that video was a big example.
Yeah. Well, Donald Trump told the Washington Post he'll decide on his running mate by the end of the week. He also said he's leaning toward a, quote, political figure more than a military one. Do we have a sense, Caitlin, of where that Veep stake search stands right now?
Well, it's interesting because he is kind of running auditions, right? So he brought Newt Gingrich out with him in Ohio. Of course, Newt Gingrich has been on the short list for some time. Tomorrow, he'll be campaigning with Mike Pence, the governor of Indiana. And he brought Chris Christie out with him earlier today. So he's really kind of running these auditions, seeing how these candidates are in this kind of setting. Gingrich and Christie, to some extent, are much more practiced at this. They've been on the national stage for a long time. Christie, of course, ran for president himself. Mike Pence is going to be really interesting to watch because he is the governor of a conservative state, but we watched him several months ago really flub on the public stage when defending those religious liberty laws that his state passed were very controversial. And so his challenge throughout this whole cycle is going to be, can he stand up there and defend Donald Trump to what is going to be an onslaught of attacks? And I think tomorrow will be the first test of that for him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that works out. Well, we learned Monday that Paul Ryan will speak at the Republican convention. Now, he's endorsed Trump, but as we all know, he's frequently criticized him as well. Is it somewhat surprising that he would speak at the convention?
Well, he is going to be the chair of the convention just because of tradition. Right. The House Speaker usually is. But remember, Paul Ryan is running a separate kind of campaign, right? He's running a campaign on the Republican ideals, the Republican agenda that he and Republican leaders in the House and the Senate have crafted together. So it kind of makes sense that he wants to have a voice on this platform. He has endorsed Donald Trump. He's been very critical of him at times. He's been put in hot water a lot of times, having to defend controversial things that Trump has said. But I think this is an effort to really promote the ideas that he's been talking about. Remember, he's been talking about, poverty, transforming and reforming Medicare and other programs. And so I think this is a chance for him to say what he wants the party to be about that may not be reflected in Trump.
All right, let's talk about Democrats. All eyes, of course, are going to be on the campaign trail. Bernie Sanders is joining Hillary Clinton on the campaign trail on Tuesday. We are expecting a formal endorsement. At this point in the race, though, I think a lot of people might be wondering how much is Bernie Sanders' endorsement really worth to Hillary Clinton?
It's something that people have been waiting for, but the question is, is this a moment too late? We already saw Elizabeth Warren, for example, come out and campaign with Hillary Clinton. She made, a lot of headlines there, really rallied up the force and of the Democratic base, and the question was, did Sanders miss his moment? And then, of course, last week Hillary Clinton campaigned with President Obama, and that kind of stirred this unity message. And I talked to a lot of people in Charlotte at the event that said, why isn't Bernie endorsing? This could have been a kind of moment he could have. So tomorrow we'll see. I think it is important for the party to unite, at least in terms of these two candidates, before the convention, and kind of show a united front, especially compared to the Republicans at this point.
I'm sure we are all going to be closely scrutinizing every minute detail. All right. Caitlin Huey-Burns, thank you so much.
Thank you.